हेलो जी। आवाज आ रही है मेरी? हेलो।
यस 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 यस।
चलिए हिंदी में ही कर देते हैं।
लाउड एंड क्लियर।
हम लोग को जो आज गांधी जी के एंटी वार मैसेज पे ही सब लोग को डिफाइन। गांधी जी ने विश्व स्तर पे शांति प्राप्त करने के लिए सत्याग्रह और अहिंसा पर जोर दिया। ये दोनों चीज गांधी के समय की तुलना में आज के दौर में अधिक वाणिज्यिक और व्यवहारिक, और क्योंकि मौजूदा दौर में मनुष्य व्यक्तिगत, स्थानीय, राष्ट्रीय और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर संघर्ष एवं हिंसा में काफी तेजी से वृद्धि हो रही है। गांधी के लिए स्थायी शांति केवल सत्य और अहिंसा पर आधारित वातावरण में ही हो सकती है। न्यायिक प्रणाली के विपरीत गांधीवादी तरीके का उद्देश्य सुलह के माध्यम से संघर्ष का समाधान करना और मूल कारणों के रूप में बुनियादी असुरक्षा और विश्वास की कमी से निपटने के लिए आम सहमति पर पहुंचाना था। वर्तमान में इसका उदाहरण यूक्रेन युद्ध है। पश्चिमी यूक्रेन देश और अमेरिका यूक्रेन और रूस के बीच मध्यस्थता करने के बजाय जंग के लिए और हवा दे रहे हैं। सत्य और अहिंसा, घृणा, दुर्भावना, संदेश या प्रतिशोध के बजाय धर्म, तंत्र, अनून, आत्मपीड़ा और करुणा पर आधारित है। युद्ध या हिंसा से न जीत हासिल की जा सकती है और न ये समस्या का समाधान हो सकता है। इसका केवल सत्य और अहिंसा के मध्यस्थता से ही समाधान हो सकता है, और यही किसी व्यक्ति, धर्म, देश, मानवता और पर्यावरण को बचाने का एकमात्र विकल्प रहा है। युद्ध से न केवल लोगों की जान जाती है, बल्कि युद्ध में इस्तेमाल किए गए हथियार का सीधे तौर पर पक्षी, भूमि, जल जीवन, पर्यावरण पे प्रतिकूल प्रभाव डालता है। हथियारों में इस्तेमाल किए गए प्रशासनिक पदार्थों के कारण जीवों के प्रजनन प्रणाली पर भी प्रतिकूल प्रभाव डालती है। अंत में यही कहता हूँ कि गांधी के युद्ध विरोधी संदेश आज के परिदृश्य में पहले से ही कहीं अधिक प्रासंगिक है। इस परिचय को आगे बढ़ाते हुए सबसे पहले मैं सर्वसेना संघ पर नहीं, इसकी जगह कौन सर के नाम ले थे, डॉक्टर सुखचंद झा सर को आमंत्रित करना चाहता हूँ। डॉक्टर सुखचंद झा LLB PhD और इतिहासकार और वरिष्ठ गांधीवादी एवं समाज सेवी रह चुके हैं। हेलो।
हेलो।
हाँ सर।
मेरी आवाज सुनाई पड़ रही है?
हाँ
मेरी आवाज
सर,
सुनाई पड़
आपके
रही है?
20 मिनट का समय दिया जाता है जी सर, आप स्टार्ट किया।
हेलो।
आपकी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है?
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा। नमस्कार, जोहार। आज के वेबिनार में आपने हमको बोलने के लिए आमंत्रित किया, इसके लिए मेरी ओर से आप सबको धन्यवाद देता हूं। मैं गांधीवादी तो कतई नहीं हूं। गांधी के विचारों में मेरी आस्था है, इसलिए गांधी को पढ़ता हूं, कभी कभी उस पर लिखता हूं और गांधी के राह पर चलने की थोड़ी बहुत कोशिश करता हूं। हालांकि उसमें मुझको सफलता नहीं मिली अभी तक। ये बार बार एक न्यूज आ जा रहा है। आज पूरी दुनिया में युद्ध का वातावरण फैल गया है। यूक्रेन पर पुतिन ने, रूस ने जो हमला किया है, उससे पूरी दुनिया के सामने अस्तित्व का संकट पैदा हो गया है। और हम लोग कह रहे हैं कि रूस में और यूक्रेन में युद्ध हो रहा है। मैं इसको युद्ध नहीं कहता हूं। जैसे एक शेर मेमने को पकड़े हुआ है, अब मेमना अपना पैर भांज रहा है उससे छूटने के लिए, और लोग कहें कि सिंह और मेमने में युद्ध हो रहा है। रूस और यूक्रेन की हालत भी ऐसी ही है। रूस, और रूस भी नहीं, पुतिन, पुतिन की मानसिकता का कारण है ये युद्ध। रूस के बहुत लोग नहीं चाहते हैं कि युद्ध हो, लेकिन जो युद्ध की हवस है पुतिन की, उसके चलते वह यूक्रेन को रौंद रहा है, हमले पर हमले कर रहा है, जान माल की क्षति पहुंचा रहा है। और हम कह रहे हैं कि रूस और यूक्रेन में युद्ध हो रहा है। ये युद्ध नहीं है, एक तरफा हमलावर है पुतिन। उसने यूक्रेन पर हमला किया है और उसके अस्तित्व को मिटाना चाहता है। यूक्रेन अपने बचाव में जो कुछ कर रहा है वह जायज है और उसे हम युद्ध नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन क्या युद्ध जरूरी है? एक जमाना था 500-700 साल पहले, लोग अपनी मिल्कियत के लिए, राज के लिए युद्ध करते थे, बर्बरता करते थे। लेकिन आज के युग में युद्ध गैर गैर जरूरी अवधारणा है। युद्ध की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। गांधी जी ने अपने जीवन में हमेशा युद्ध को नकारा है, युद्ध की बुराई की है, युद्ध से बचने की कोशिश की है, चाहे वह प्रथम विश्व युद्ध हो या द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध हो। गांधी के समय में दो विश्व युद्ध हुए। हर युद्ध में उन्होंने युद्ध की बुराई की, युद्ध की आलोचना की और पूरी दुनिया को युद्ध से बचने की सलाह दी। जब प्रथम विश्व युद्ध हुआ तो अपना देश आजाद भी नहीं था, लेकिन उस वक्त भी गांधी ने कहा कि युद्ध बुरा है। मैं आजादी इसलिए नहीं चाहता कि मेरा देश, जो कि बहुत बड़ा है, किसी देश पर या किसी व्यक्ति पर या किसी जाति का शोषण करे। मैं इसलिए आजादी नहीं चाहता। आजादी का मेरे लिए मतलब है कि पूरी दुनिया में, अपने देश के साथ साथ पूरी दुनिया में हम शांति का संदेश लेकर जाएं, हम शांति का दूत बनकर रहें और हम अपने विरोधियों के हृदय को जीतें, दिल को जीतें। उनके शरीर को जीतने का हमारा कोई उद्देश्य नहीं होगा। ये हमारी आजादी का मतलब होगा। उस जमाने में प्रथम विश्व युद्ध के समय उन्होंने ये बात कही थी। उसके बाद 1947 में 2 अप्रैल 1947 को नई दिल्ली में जो एशिया के मुल्क थे उनका एक कॉन्फ्रेंस था। उस कॉन्फ्रेंस में एशिया के देशों के प्रतिनिधि लोग आए थे और शांति पर ही वार्ता हो रही थी, शांति पर ही बहस चल रही थी। उसमें गांधी जी आमंत्रित थे मुख्य वक्ता के रूप में, और उसमें उन्होंने जो बातें कही, मैं आपके सामने कुछ बातें रखना चाहता हूं। गांधी जी ने कहा कि आज जो एशिया के लोग यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, एशिया धर्मों की जन्मभूमि है। जितने धर्म हैं इस देश में, इस दुनिया में, सबकी जन्मस्थली एशिया है। राम हो, कृष्ण हो, जरथुस्त्र हो, ईसा हो, मूसा हो, मोहम्मद साहब हो, सबके सब एशिया में ही पैदा हुए और यहीं से धर्म की रोशनी, भगवान बुद्ध हो, महावीर हो, युद्ध रोशनी, शांति की रोशनी, ज्ञान की रोशनी यहीं से पूरे देश में फैली है। और एशिया के सामने ये संदेश शुरू से लेकर आखिर तक है और हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। अभी हम गुलाम हैं, हम आजाद नहीं हैं, फिर भी हमारा ये फर्ज बनता है कि सत्य और अहिंसा का जो पैगाम है पूरे एशिया का, उसको हम पश्चिम में ले जाएं, यूरोप में ले जाएं, क्योंकि यूरोपवासी, पश्चिम के लोग युद्ध की पीड़ा से, युद्ध की अवधारणा से त्रस्त हैं। रक्तपात से उनकी मानसिकता कुंठित हो गई है। हम पूरब के अनुभव से या पूरब के जो युद्ध की पिपासा है, उससे हमें सीखने की जरूरत नहीं है। हमें युद्ध को रोकना है, विश्व को युद्ध के खतरे से बचाना है, तो हमें एशिया के संदेश को दुनिया के जन जन तक पहुंचाना होगा। ये गांधी ने कहा था 2 अप्रैल 1947 को नई दिल्ली में। उन्होंने कहा कि पश्चिम आज ज्ञान के लिए तरस रहा है। अणुबमों की दिन दुनी इतनी बढ़ती हो रही है कि पूरा यूरोप नाउमीदी में जी रहा है। इसकी बढ़ती से पश्चिम ही नहीं, पूरी दुनिया का नाश हो जाएगा, मानो बाइबल की भविष्यवाणी सच होने जा रही हो और कयामत आने वाला है। जो गांधी ने उस जमाने में कहा था 47 में, आज हम अपने सामने घटित होते हुए देख रहे हैं। एक राष्ट्र दूसरे राष्ट्र को कुचल रहा है और हम तमसबीन हैं। बस हम विरोध करके, थोड़ा बहुत विरोध करके अपने कर्तव्यों की इतिश्री कर लेते हैं। जब 1931 में गांधी जी गोलमेज कॉन्फ्रेंस में भाग लेने के लिए इंग्लैंड गए थे, उसी जमाने में उन्होंने दुनिया की यात्रा की और जगह जगह युद्ध के खिलाफ शांति का संदेश दिया। उसी समय वो स्विट्जरलैंड गए थे। वहां एक चर्च में उनकी सभा हुई और प्रथम विश्व युद्ध के बाद तो वहां जो गरीबी आ गई थी, आर्थिक मंदी आ गई थी, उससे वो लोग उबरने की कोशिश कर रहे थे। उसी माहौल में गांधी जी वहां स्विट्जरलैंड गए। एक चर्च में उनका भाषण हुआ। तो चर्च में स्वागत करते हुए अध्यक्ष ने कहा कि हम यूरोप के लोग भयभीत हैं, अज्ञानता से, गरीबी से, जेल से और पीड़ा से, लेकिन आप तो सबसे प्रेम करते हैं, जेल से भी प्रेम करते हैं, भूखमरी से भी प्रेम करते हैं, अज्ञानता से भी प्रेम करते हैं। हमने सरमन ऑन द माउंट कंठस्थ कर लिया है, पढ़ लिया है, लेकिन आप इसको जीते हैं। आप हमको शांति का संदेश दें, शांति का मार्ग दिखलाएं। उस समय भी गांधी जी ने उन लोगों से कहा था, स्विट्जरलैंड के लोगों से, कि युद्ध का सीधा परिणाम यह हुआ है कि आपके यानी यूरोप के अधिकांश राष्ट्र दिवालियेपन के कगार पर है। यह दिवालियापन भौतिक भी है और नैतिक भी। अभी इसके भयंकर परिणामों का पूरा अंदाज हम नहीं लगा सकते। यह अभिशाप केवल यूरोप की सीमाओं में ही नहीं, यह एशिया तक पहुंच गया है थी। और विश्व के नेताओं से, विश्व के खास करके स्विट्जरलैंड के लोगों से कहा था कि युद्ध से बचना चाहिए हर हाल में, हर परिस्थिति में। जब मैं युद्ध के बारे में गांधी के संदेशों को पढ़ता हूं या अभी आपके समक्ष रख रहा हूं, तो बहुत लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं कि गांधी कमजोर थे, गांधी कायर थे, वो युद्ध से डरते थे। ऐसी बात नहीं है। गांधी का विचार था कि अहिंसा कायरों का हथियार नहीं है। अहिंसा के राह पर चलने वाले तलवारबाज वीरों से भी अधिक वीर होते हैं। और अहिंसा से भी हम दिल को जीत सकते हैं। और तब शरीर को जीतने की जरूरत नहीं है, देश को जीतने की जरूरत नहीं है। सारा विश्व हमारा भाई और बंधु हो जाएगा। इस तरह गांधी ने जीवन पर्यंत युद्ध के खिलाफ अपने देश को, अपने देश की जनता को और विश्व के पटल पर जहां भी वो गए वहां उन्होंने युद्ध के खिलाफ शांति और अहिंसा का पैगाम दिया। गांधी के बारे में जब आज हम सोचते हैं तो गांधी ने जो जो बातें उस समय कही थी वो बातें आज हो रही है। अब अमेरिका का रोल देखिए इस युद्ध में। मैं समझता हूं आज यूक्रेन में जो कुछ भी हो रहा है उसके लिए अमेरिका भी कम जिम्मेवार नहीं है। उसने हमेशा बयानबाजी की कि जब यूक्रेन पर हमला होगा रूस का तो हम यूक्रेन का साथ देंगे। लेकिन हुआ क्या? आज यूक्रेन रौंदा जा रहा है, कुचला जा रहा है, लेकिन अमेरिका तमसबीन होके देख रहा है, बयानबाजी कर रहा है और हमें लगता नहीं है कि ऐसी कोशिश वो कोई कर रहा है कि पुतिन इस युद्ध से बाज आए। मैं समझता हूं कि समय की कुछ पाबंदी होगी, इसलिए एक बार मैं फिर कामना करता हूं गांधी की बातों को दोहराते हुए कि युद्ध से इस देश का, विश्व का, मानवता का कभी भला नहीं होगा। इसलिए युद्ध से, रक्तपात से, हिंसा से हम सबको बचना चाहिए। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ जो आज यूक्रेन में हो रहा है उस पर मैं अफसोस जाहिर करता हूँ, चिंता व्यक्त करता हूँ और एक अदना आदमी के नाते मैं मांग करता हूँ कि पुतिन, उनका देश यूक्रेन छोड़े और यूक्रेन में जो भी तबाही हुई है उसकी भरपाई वो करे और जितने सैन्य संगठन हैं इस दुनिया में सबको तुरंत खत्म किया जाए, सबको तुरंत बंद किया जाए। इससे आपस में प्रतिद्वंदिता बढ़ती है, का खतरा मौजूद रहता है। पिछली दफा मैंने एक बात और कही थी, ये जो संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ है या तो युद्ध रोकने में प्राय सफल नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन हम इससे चमत्कार की उम्मीद नहीं कर सकते हैं। हुई आज लोकतंत्र की संस्कृति है। गांधी को याद करते हुए युद्ध की विभीषिका से बचने की बात आप सबों के समक्ष शेयर करता हूं। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
धन्यवाद एससी जादव। और इसके बाद हमारे नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन होंगे डॉक्टर किशन बैचलर। ताजा संवाद की गेस्ट डॉक्टर किशन बैचलर, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ गांधी इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर, दिल्ली, दिल्ली। वेलकम सर।
सर जहाँ सर थोड़ा सा ना अपना माइक और वीडियो बंद कर लीजिए, तो वॉइस इको कर रहा है।
Good evening. May I speak to you now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I prepared 5 pieces of Gandhi for you, just to show the anti-war message and the topical relevance today. It is focusing on non-violence, independence, and the World Federation But let me start with two references of Gandhi. One is with respect to nonviolence, and one with respect to the First World War. Both of these references were made by Gandhi in 1931 in his speeches at meetings in Lausanne, Switzerland. You've asked me why I consider that God is truth. In my early childhood or youth, I was taught to repeat what in Hindu scriptures is 1,000 names of God. Among the several little things, one of the religious teachers my family had was a little pamphlet which contained these 1,000 names of God. But these 1,000 names of God were by no means an exhaustive list. We believe, and I think it is the truth, that God has as many names as there are creatures. And therefore, we also say that God is nameless. And since God has many forms, so consider him formless. And since he speaks to me through many tongues, we consider him to be speechless, and so on. And so when I came to study Islam, I found that Islam too had many names, but I had not come to recognize God for my personal satisfaction as truth. I would say for those who say God is love, God is love. But deep down in me, I say God may be love, but God is truth. But if it is possible for the human tongue to give the fullest description of God, for myself, I have come to the conclusion that God is truth. 2 years ago, I went a step further and said, truth is God. You will see the fine distinction between the two statements, God is truth and truth is God. And that conclusion I came to after a continuous, relentless search after truth, which began so many years ago. I found that the nearest approach to truth is through love. But I found also that love has many meanings in the English language, at least. And human love, in the sense of passion, becomes a degrading thing also. I found too that love, in the sense of ahimsa and non-violence, has only a limited number of votaries in the world. And as I made progress in my search, I made no dispute with God is love. It is very difficult to understand God is love because of a variety of meanings of love. But I never found a double meaning in connection with truth, and not even atheists have denied the necessity or power of truth. Not only so, in their passion for discovering truth, they have not hesitated even to deny the very existence of God, from their own point of view, rightly. It was because of their reasoning that I saw that I was not going to say God is truth, but truth is God. Not that scientists do not very often commit cruelties in the name of truth. I know today, in the name of truth and science, inhuman cruelties are perpetrated on animals when men perform vivisection. To me, it is a denial of God whether you recognize him as truth or by any other name. So I know that there are these difficulties in one's way, no matter how you describe God. But human mind is a limited thing, and you have to labor under limitation when you think of a being or entity who is beyond the power of man to grasp. But we have another thing in Hindu philosophy. God alone is, and nothing else exists. Now, the same truth you find emphasized and exemplified in the Kalama of Islam. There you find it clearly stated, a Muslim has to recite it at all his prayers, that God alone is, and nothing else exists. There you find it. That is the same about truth. And the name that Sanskrit has for truth literally means that which is, Sat. For these and several other reasons that I can give you, I've come to the conclusion that the definition, truth is God, gives me the greatest satisfaction. And when you want to find truth as God, the only inevitable means is love, non-violence. And since I believe that ultimately means and ends are convertible terms, I should not hesitate to say that God is love. What is truth? A difficult question. But I have solved it for myself by saying that it is what the voice within tells one. How then, you ask, different people think of different and contrary truths? Seeing that the human mind works through innumerable media, and that evolution of the human mind is not the same for all, it follows that what may be truth for one may be untruth for another. And hence those who have made these experiments have come to the conclusion that there are certain conditions to making experiments. Just as for science, there is an indispensable cause common for all. Even so, it is true for persons who would make experiments in the spiritual realm. They must submit to certain conditions. And since everybody says it is his inner voice which speaks, you must listen to the voice. And you will then find out your limitations as you go along the path. Therefore, we have the belief based upon uninterrupted experience that those who would make diligent search after truth, God, must go through these vows. The vow of truth, speaking and thinking of truth, the vow of brahmacharya, of non-violence, poverty, and non-possession. If you do not take these 5 vows, you may not embark on the experiment. There are several other things which were prescribed, but I must not take you through all those. But those who have made these experiments know that it is not proper for everyone to claim to hear the voice of conscience. And it is because we have at the present moment everybody claiming the right of conscience without going through any discipline whatsoever, that there is so much untruth being delivered to a bewildered world. All therefore that I can in all humility present to you is that truth is not to be found by anybody who has not got an abundant sense of humility. If you would swim on the bosom of the ocean of truth, you must reduce yourself to a zero. Further than this, I may not tonight go along this fascinating path. The second piece I chose for you is on the creative war. The last war, falsely called great, has taught you and humanity many a great lesson. Human nature during that war did not by any means shine at its best. No fraud, no lie, no deceit was considered to be too much in order to win the war. Foulest charges were flung by a set of partisans belonging to one nation against another, and these were reciprocated with double vehemence. No cruelty was considered too great. Nothing was considered base or mean in order to compass the destruction of the enemy. Suddenly, as in a flash, the friends of yesterday became the enemy of today. No honor was safe, nothing was spared, and historians tell us that there never was so much blood spilled as during the last war. At this time, there is a message of hope coming from India. India is trying to attain its liberty through non-violent and truthful means. The third piece I chose for you is referring to Gandhi's understanding of democracy. My democracy means every man is his own master. I have read sufficient history, and I did not see such an experiment on so large a scale for the establishment of democracy by non-violence. We are aiming at a world federation in which India would be a leading unit. It can come only through non-violence. Disarmament is only possible if you use the matchless weapon of non-violence. I want you to adopt non-violence as a matter of policy. With me, it is a creed. But so far as you are concerned, I want you to accept it as policy. The next is referring to this concept of freedom for India through non-violent means in a letter to Morris Friedman, July 28, 1942. Gandhi writes, "If I can get freedom for India now through non-violent means, power of non-violence is firmly established, empire idea dissolves, and world state takes its place, in which all the states of the world are free and equal. No state has its military. There may be a world police to keep order in the absence of universal belief in non-violence." And the last piece is quite interesting. It's a dialogue, an interview to Ralph Corniston in 1945, briefly before the end of the Second World War. And Gandhi is asked by Ralph Corniston, who was a journalist of the Collier's Weekly. It was before the San Francisco conference opened on April 25, 1945. Gandhi is asked, what kind of world organization would promote an enduring peace or preserve it? Only an organization based predominantly on truth and nonviolence. Would you have a world government? Yes, I claim to be a practical idealist. I believe in compromise, so long as it does not involve the sacrifice of principles. I may not get a world government that I want just now, but if it is a government that would just touch my ideal, I would accept it as a compromise. Therefore, although I'm not enamored of a world federation, I shall be prepared to accept it if it is built on an essentially non-violent basis. World federation accepted if it is built on an essentially non-violent basis. Now, I just want to inform you that we published a plea for a world federation in the lines of all these thinkers who anticipated international arbitrary courts for territorial disputes and claims in border disputes, in territorial claims, like Albert Einstein, or those who pleaded for perpetual peace in the world republic, like Immanuel Kant or Gandhi. So now this text is written a few days ago. If a state's government in possession of nuclear weapons, the required ballistic missile systems for their delivery, and modern military technology, attacks the territorial sovereignty of another state, whose government has been chosen in a general, direct, free, equal, and secret election, and violates the borders of a neighboring country by military invasion, then there is no system of collective security that could hinder the aggressor either through a court order recognized by all warring parties or through any direct intervention. As both the Covenant of the League of Nations, Article 10 and 11, and the Charter of the United Nations, Chapter 7, purport collective security, however, without guaranteeing it, the necessity for a political equivalent to the United Nations arises, which enables the collective responsibility to protect the civilian population of any country under attack. Because the civilian population's life, physical inviolability, and human dignity is the starting point of all those concerned with the message of Gandhi, Tolstoy, Dr. King today. Due to the UN Security Council veto power, the non-binding character of the United Nations General Assembly resolutions, as well as the orders and rulings of the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which are not recognized by all member states, the United Nations are no guarantor of collective security if a nuclear weapon state member of the United Nations Security Council threatens military escalation to the point of a nuclear world war. While the International Criminal Court documents and investigates war crimes, crimes against humanity, crimes of aggression, and crimes of genocide, which facilitates the prosecution and conviction of criminals, it is not the instrument to prevent these crimes through orders and rulings. From this arises the necessity for a judicial equivalent to the International Criminal Court and to the International Court of Justice, a supranational legal authority recognized by all member states. Such alternative shall be the World Federation of Liberal and Social Democracies, which excludes any autocracy, dictatorship, and oligarchy. This World Federation shall replace national militaries with supranational conflict mediation and jurisdiction, shall guarantee critical public debate and media diversity on the basic principle of pluralism, and shall prevent any preparation for war. The introduction of an always valid world citizen passport for everyone will make obsolete the refugee status. Such a world federation shall be constituted on the basis of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which will remain legally binding for each and every world citizen to guarantee their human dignity, right to life, and physical inviolability. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, sir. give the precious time for the Sadha Samvad from our busy schedule. और अदर किसी को क्वेश्चन है से रिलेटेड? जौहर भाई?
हाँ, अगर किसी से कोई अपने सुझाव या कुछ बात रखना चाहते हैं तो रख सकते हैं। 10 मिनट का टाइम है। हम लोग है ना जल्दी आज टाइम पे शुरू किए थे, 5 मिनट 10 मिनट लेट हुए थे और करीब 1 घंटा के अंदर खत्म भी हो जाएगा। भरत सर, कुछ बोलना है?
जी नहीं, मेरा एक सवाल था कि ये सारे लॉफ्टी लैंग्वेज, रिजोल्यूशंस, चार्टर सब तो है अपनी जगह, पढ़ के सुन के बड़ा अच्छा लगता है। ह्यूमन राइट्स, इतनी सारी कमिटीज बनी हुई है, अरबों खरबों रुपए खर्च होते हैं।
Is it possible for you to speak English so that I understand your question?
Okay. I'll do it in English. Okay, sorry. And what I was saying that all these.
By the way, English is an international medium. It's not my home language, but as an international medium, it's good for international understanding. And,
okay.
I just want to
got
add
your point.
only one sentence. This text was created on a knowledge basis of the constitutions of those international institutions which should guarantee a system of collective security. And we are all suffering now from the fact that such a system of collective security does not exist, not just for the citizens of Syria or Yemen or Ukraine, but for all citizens of the member states of the United Nations, which we are. And that challenges us now to create something new, not just keep our, let me say, keep our beliefs of the past, but to create something new. And I think this challenge is directed to all the world citizens.
I think
from all nations, yes. And we
think,
are
Doctor,
world citizens, although we have a national passport, as I know. But there was, for example, one great humanist, as you know, Fridtjof Nansen, who created a Nansen passport for refugees. But this has never become a generally accepted status to preserve lives and dignity.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Can you let Mr. Bharat? Sure. Can you please let Mr. Bharat to complete his question, so that you can be able to answer his whole entire questions? Okay, sir.
No, I think he got my question in spite of the language barrier. My question was exactly this, that in spite of all the charters, all these lofty language.
Bharat sir, that is wrong, because you are not some common person. Okay, so it is my humble request to you to please introduce yourself so that the other people can also know about you. Okay.
Okay. My name is BB Chaudhary, Bharat Chaudhary. Right now, I live in Ranchi, Jharkhand, and I work with many organizations who are working for human rights, like PUCL and Jharkhand Janadhikar Mahasabha. Otherwise, I have been an energy professional all my life. I'm an engineer and a management student. But that all I did till about 64, 65 years of my age. And now I'm more or less full time in these kind of social activities. So that is, I think, my introduction. And my question was exactly this, that in spite of all these lofty things and charters and all the big meetings that takes place, and a lot of money which is spent, of course, there are other actions which are good, But when it comes to war and it comes to, taking some other innocent set of citizens to task, this mechanism is an utter failure. And you yourself, like mentioned, Syria or Yemen or the latest one, Ukraine. Those who have got power, money, arms, they can do anything and they get away with all this. So what happened in Iraq earlier, the way US has been doing aggression in most of the places, what Israel does repeatedly. So this mechanism is, looks like it is in the hands of superpowers only, and there is no, equity and equitable sort of consideration being done, particularly to the weaker and the poorer citizens of the world. That was my question. So where do we go from here, and how do we go?
Well, thank you so much. I agree with you. And Gandhi inspired in his letter to UNESCO, for example, the duty of each world citizen. Here, he also stressed the fact to be a world citizen. How could he do otherwise? And of course, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the most cherished document for each and every one of us. And we have constitutional charter significant for each and every one of us. There should be
सलीम जी आपके माइक से बहुत आवाज आ रहा है, आप काइंडली म्यूट कीजिए,
to facilitate us to claim these human rights. And this is not dependent on national constitutions, but it is not existing. So we need a world federation. This is what I wanted to tell you. And so we should work for this alternative or to this profound reform of the United Nations system, both ways, but as soon as possible and now. And this is the reason why I speak up publicly. And the Gandhi Information Center has created a manifesto against conscription and the military system, signed by famous dignitaries, has been silenced down for decades. Why? Because it is a danger to the military system, to those who keep up militarism, nationalism, any kind of colonialism or post-colonialism, imperialism, of course. And we, as world citizens, now are in the right and follow the precious heritage of our modern prophets, but only on the basis of nonviolence and truth. And so all activities like yours for human rights are very well appreciated, but should be linked to international efforts, transnational efforts, and guarantee a new inescapable network of humanity and solidarity. Otherwise, we will go down together, perish.
Just a short question.
Which I'm afraid of for the children of, my friends, for the children and grandchildren. They might not live through a future which is worth living if we do not join together beyond the limits of a culture, a nation, and religion, of course.
Just another small question in this regard. You have very correctly pointed out that what is required to be done. Do we have any existing organization across the national borders which works for this particular purpose, or do we have to form another one?
Yes, I think, Bharat sir, there is no organization, because organization is run by money, and when money involves, it is becomes a remote control. I think so.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Yeah, I
better,
agree. I agree. Yes,
better we
there
have
are
to.
organizations following these kind of
So
principles, but they
better.
are all not sufficient. You know, they are not
So
always
better,
authentic or
better,
reliable. So we need
better.
to create something new. Yes.
Yes, better apart from the, we have to break the boundaries, okay? And on the human cause, we have to start with a new means work, because many times people have raised voice against US, but US clearly says that you take away UN from US, wherever you want to take it away, and you pay the salary of the whole staff. So when somebody is paying for you, so he will take the benefit of that. And second thing, now,
The same
you
with
know,
China, the same with India, the
yes,
same with
exactly.
Russia,
And
the same
second
with
thing,
the United Kingdom, the same with France, the same with all the nuclear powers, of course.
and second thing,
And there
why
is
this,
something which should be
why,
solved in a way. There should be a kind of, judicial power, but there is no. So if there
no,
is no law, if there is no publicity, we are not living in a state which is a structure sustainable for development and real progress. And that's the reason why we need to either challenge the present international system, United Nations system, or to create a new world federation. Both is possible from my side.
no, second thing, why we need arms? If we have
Yeah,
Gandhiji's was always for the peace. So when we have the peace, friendly relation with our neighbors, then why we need to keep our arms?
that's true. And
No,
here I want
Istiaji,
to, I want
my question was something different. My question was that an organization of the citizens which can create pressure on their own nations and also on the international community. I was not saying that you have another UN, which is again a lot of money and all
yeah,
those things. No,
No, no, no, sir.
to
I
create a
am not
moral
saying
to
that.
create a
I am
moral
not saying.
pressure for that kind of citizens organization,
Yes, exactly. I am
which
not saying about
which
that.
will not
I
need too
am,
much of money, which will
yes,
not need
I
too
am,
much of money.
sir. I am
that's
not
so true.
telling that you have to make a UN or some another government. I am not talking about that also. When the internationally people are united, and when the pressure comes on the local government or international bodies, then these they will understand, and they will take, they will be pressurized, and then they will take our decision on the humanitarian ground, not by checking about the government or any other things. That if pressure will be built only when we have a strong international humanity based community or any organization. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, you are so right. And 4 days before the beginning of this present war in uh, in the eastern part of Europe, you can say we anticipated and made 4 points. You know, there's this Olympic truce idea of ceasefire during the Olympic Games. So we said extend limitless the Olympic truce beyond the Olympic Games ending. Disarm all nukes and end nuclear deterrence, poisoning hearts and minds with soul-numbing fear and the death-producing ideology of violence. Create civilian and nonviolent defense and security alternatives, and our responsibility to protect liberal and social democracies, human life on earth, and the welfare of all. Establish a world federation with constitutional human rights and world citizenship. And I just wanted to explain the last point in more precise terms. And I agree fully. We need a new, strong, you can say, citizens, world citizens initiative, independent not only from money interests, but also from partiality and from nationalism and all that. Poison, contaminating minds of so many people nowadays, destroying truth each moment. And that is we know that truth is not destroyable, but it is a constant propaganda against nonviolence and truth. And now all those who appreciate and cherish the message of Gandhi shall stand up. Now, this is a loud voice, I know, but I can be silent too.
Yes, it is better. Why we not start now only? You are there, Mr. Bharat is there, Suksan Jaji is there.
Yes.
So to begin tomorrow, why we are waiting? Why we should not start now only?
No,
From
that's right. We do not
So
wait. We have published our statements on our website.
After that, we will be feel free that we have done, as being a social animal, we have done something for the society.
That's true.
Is my another just query is this Amnesty International? Does it work in these kind of things? Can we,
Sir,
rope in Amnesty International for this kind of purpose also?
Sir, everyone is in a large or a small, they are biased in some ways. And
no, I would say, may I just interfere in a brief moment? There are, of course, many organizations working for human rights, international organizations too. Particularly, I'll give you one field I worked for the rights of conscientious objectors to military service. So I counseled more than 20,000 of them during 16 years in Germany. Also, I worked for the end of legal conscription as a system. And this was contributing to society, certainly. But it's not enough. It's just a part of it. And so I just gave you the link to our website, at least, so you can find the documents. I referred to also our manifesto via this, our publications, and feel free to contact us each minute, each day, whenever you like, and continue this dialogue, please.
so, Bharat sir, what is your opinion or suggestion?
My opinion is the same as everybody else's, and what Dr. Christina has been saying, that we have to do something, we have to raise our voice, but there has to be an organization. Without an organization and networking, this will not be effective.
See, organization becomes become small or large by the members only, okay? And I was talking about that only, means civil society. We have to make a strong international civil society. I was not talking about replacing UN or any other thing. I was not talking about the government. When the international community become aware, everything will be sorted out.
Yes, I agree. A strong civil society is necessary also to counter militarism. In my country, in the European countries, this is a danger in the near future, to have more militarism. So it's real good to strengthen civil societies. And I would appeal to all those institutions related to Gandhi, like foundations or commemoration sites, to be active, not just for nonviolent communication in general, which is fine, or mediation, international mediation also, very essential, as we know, to prevent wars, but also to create something new, a world federation. And this is certainly linked with those spirits who are doing very good work. Also inside the United Nations, there's so many creative spirits. And the value system of the United Nations have been inspired by Gandhi and those great four ladies from India, as we know, so that we now at least can say that all human beings are free and equal, you see, not just the man all human beings. And this is something. So we have a good basis, but we should now really associate ourselves with each other and not disassociate. We should really try to continue. I do not know how to build up a new structure, you know. I'm not the best organizer, but at least I can inspire you. And I gave you these thoughts. You can read them again, at least, and also listen to them again, because this will be a visual document, I hope. So this can be a basis, at least. But I don't want to become a leader, you know. It's just a guide, a guidance, and those who are essential will perhaps not be those who are now meeting each other in this virtual room. Perhaps these essential for a new structure will be outside this virtual room. This can be, they may be younger also.
You are correct, sir, because now myself is not in a age where we can lead like how the people are leading their country, becoming president or a prime minister. But for the civil society, we need a younger generation, like below 30 or something like that.
That's
So,
true. So I
means
collaborate with a 35-year-old scientist. So this
yeah,
is great solace for me. Great comfort.
my role can be only as a warrior or like a soldier, not in the front
You've done a
line,
good job to bring us together here, yes.
but making preparing the uniform or making their food like this we can do, but we have to start later or sooner. We have to start this international civil society, right or wrong?
That's so true. And actually, this is according to the concept of Gandhi somehow, because actually, as disciplined soldiers, he wrote, you must accept it in toto, that means as a whole, non-violence, and stick to it when you join the struggle. So let us be disciplined soldiers, but not soldiers of war, but soldiers of peace. And this is what Gandhi expressed in his speeches in Switzerland. And why Switzerland? Because he was so close to the League of Nations then in Geneva, in Victoria Hall, where he gave a lecture on these issues, war and peace, for pacifists in Lausanne. And it was at the seat of the League of Nations then, Geneva, Switzerland. It was combined with dialogues he had with his host, Romain Rolland, who was the only one who spoke out against the First World War in the beginning of the 1914. And that was an inspiration, for example, for Dr. Albert Schweitzer, the European Gandhi, who appreciated Gandhi very much. And so you can say there's a wonderful, strong tradition of humanism and pacifism, and we should remember them. That's why we created exhibitions, 21 exhibitions, from the side of our Society of Education. And this is all based on volunteer work, non-profit. It's just for education, peace education, you can say, education for peace. And our focus is the tradition of the concept of non-violent resistance, non-violence in the history, linked with Erasmus of Rotterdam, with his 2 anti-war tracts, and Etienne de la Boétie, with his concept of non-violent, non-cooperation, influencing Tolstoy, and through him Gandhi. And of course, Tolstoy and Dr. Martin Luther King, and Henry David Thoreau's civil disobedience. You can go back even to Socrates, as we know, with his fearless attitude, not afraid of death. So this is a very strong tradition. It's international, and there's You find great representatives of this tradition in many countries, but particularly India brought a light to mankind, and not only one, just recollecting the message against nationalism by Rabindranath Tagore, who was visiting Albert Einstein. I'm speaking to you from Berlin, Germany. You know, this is the place where fascism started in a way to destroy the world. And also you have here the place of 2 world wars. So this is a particular responsibility. One German citizen who recognized this responsibility was, for example, Willy Brandt. So I'm not a member of his party, but he became a follower of Gandhi somehow. He said we should take Gandhi serious. He was supporting Karl von Ossietzky, the German Gandhi, during the Nazi time, a political journalist. So it's particularly true to say we need a new approach, and let us meet again and think about practical steps, of course. I would like to know more about your work, and the work of the Gandhi Peace Foundations, of course, and the work of those who are active advocates for human rights.
Yeah, at the end, I would like everyone to introduce themselves with their video on, so that we can be familiar and in a next meeting or something like that. Because here most of the people are social worker, and they have fought in some ways, like Jagat Narayan ji and Suksan Jha. For the tribal, Mr. Saban Madi is working. So even the Suksan Jha has gone in a jail also during the emergency. Okay. So here Salim is also a human rights activist. So better we can introduce one by one each of us.
So start.
जगत भाई आप शुरू कीजिए. जगत भाई आप इंट्रोडक्शन दीजिए अपना परिचय.
India. I'm working with people yes. Yeah, myself, but in this time I'm not participate in PUCL. Okay, thank you.
श्रवण मांडी जी, आप बोलिए अपने बारे में. अरे माटी दा, आप अपने बारे में बताइए, हिंदी में ही बता दीजिए.
हाँ, मैं श्रावण बाड़ी हूँ, मैं टीचर हूँ और झारखंड में हम लोग जो है आदिवासियों के बीच में काम कर रहे हैं, विशेष करके विस्थापन पर और जो जल जंगल जमीन से उन लोग का हक जो छीना जा रहा है उसके लिए हम लोग लड़ रहे हैं शांति प्रिय ढंग से, और कानूनी रूप से जो भी संवैधानिक अधिकार है आदिवासियों की उनके लिए हम लोग अवेयर कर रहे हैं और विभिन्न तरह के कार्यक्रम चला रहे हैं. थैंक यू.
Can someone translate, please?
सलीम भाई आप अपना बात बताइए।
Myself, Salim Akhtar. I am a social rights activist. I am the president of Kolhan district from APCR, Association for the Protection of Civil Rights. Since long time, I and Johar Bhai and his team has been working to provide legal facility to those who are suppressed classes in the society. I am very pleased to hear your lecture. I got many new points which enlightened me, and surely such points will give me further guidelines to improve my line of thinking.
Thank you. Great. Let us stay in touch.
Ghazi, आप अपना इंट्रोडक्शन, Ghazi, after giving your introduction, end the program, okay?
Myself, A.S. Gandhi. I prepare for a government service, administrative service. हेलो, आवाज जा रही है? हेलो, इस्ताक भाई, हेलो, जौहर भाई।
आवाज नहीं आ रही है आपकी।
आप फिर से you once again tell, okay, and then close it.
हेलो, प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, आप ही एंड कर दीजिए इसको। हेलो,
You introduce yourself, ना first.
हेलो, मैं गड़बड़ रखिए। हेलो,
He is Amir Shakil Ghazi. He is he's doing master degree in bioscience, and he's preparing for the civil services. And he is also in a part time. He is giving a free education to the poor student also. Can we end?
इश्तिहाक
Yes, yes, yes.
जौहर भाई,
हाँ बोलिए
जौहर भाई,
हाँ जौहर भाई, आपने जो मेरा परिचय दिया था, मैं उसमें कुछ सुधार करना चाहता हूँ। मेरी आवाज जा रही है?
मैं आपका परिचय फिर से दे रहा हूँ। डॉक्टर सुखचंद झा जी LLB है, और ये इतिहासकार है। मिस्टर सुखचंद झा जी इज LLB and he is ex-employee of Tata Steel, and during his service only he has done a higher education. He has completed his PhD. A book on a Jharkhand. He is a historian as well. He is a Gandhiwadi, and he
Emergency. I want to tell you that I never went to any jail.
oh